Hello, it's LindaLee. How are you? And we are going to sew in some signatures today. I should say this is probably the hardest part, at least for me. Not that it's difficult, it's just a little nerve-wracking because it kind of seems like you only really get one chance to make it right. But that's not even true either because you can pull it apart and do it again. Anyways, I'm going to be sewing some pages into my floating pocket, and I'm going to sew in my 2 signatures into my cover. And remember, I'm not really doing anything to the cover so that the person that receives it can doodle and draw and potentially paint or whatever, both on the outside and the inside. So my embellishments I'm keeping kind of to a minimum. I have not yet decorated anything on the inside. I've just done all the distressing, so the stamping, the stenciling, on coffee dyed paper. So let me adjust this just a little bit because I can tell I'm already towards the bottom of the page or the camera feed. What I want to do first is kind of prepare this while I sew in the pages into my floating pocket. What I'm going to do is I'm going to glue some muslin down into the binding. I have this muslin on a roll. I bought this from a floral website for basically wholesale florists go to. I've since gone back and I do have my own business and a business license and all that. But even as a business, I'm having a difficult time getting in there, probably because I'm not ordering a case of it at a time. But I still have a little bit left, so I'm just kind of using it sparingly. Let's get a little fray in here. But I just want to kind of rough this up a little bit because this will stick out the edges. There we go. Just a little. Alright, and I am going to use some tacky glue for this. I have some Fabri-Tac as well. I might use Fabri-Tac on the edges. It just depends on how well the muslin sticks into the binding itself. I'm putting on a fairly generous amount, and I'm going to kind of brush it in. Just over the edges a little bit too. And then I'm going to make sure that the fabric sticks all the way into this little inside edge. I forget what that's called. It actually has a name. And I definitely have more glue than I need. I just didn't want to have to stop and redo part of it. Am I in frame? Yeah, it looks like it so far. Here, let's see if this will help a little with light. I have a lot of nice natural light today. Got some birds singing outside. My hummingbird is out there, but he's kind of across the way. So usually when he's really close, you can still hear him even on the video. Okay. All right. And I have a little bottle here that has some hair conditioner, some water and a hair conditioner. So I probably won't use that brush again. And being that I'm doing the video, I won't get to rinse it, so having the conditioner in the water kind of keeps it nice and soft. And this is almost not big enough, but it is fitting. Just help give it a little stability. Now what I was going to do, it's called a floating spine, or a hidden spine, I guess it is. The hidden spine, where you take the signatures and you actually sew them into a piece of cardboard, and then you glue the cardboard into the book. But I kind of changed my mind. I want to stitch it directly to the book itself. Okay. Give this a little bit of time to dry and move on to the floating pocket. Okay, I'm going to just flip that over for the moment. Okay, I just want to wipe this right here so I don't have an issue later. So now, these papers, whoop, these two go in the book. And this is the pocket. And I didn't distress these papers. And I added some pink ones. I don't have any pink beet juice papers in the actual book, but I put them in here, and I added a little bag. What I did is I sliced open the bottom of the bag and just kind of cut down and made a little pocket out of it, so she'll have a pocket on either side. What I'm using, it's called wax thread, and I got these from Kelly Snow's shop. And this stuff is really, really strong and secure. So basically, you're not going to have any real issues with it down the road, because what can happen is, depending on how much the book actually gets used, it'll break down. So if you use like embroidery thread, you know, that is probably the one you don't want to use, because that can fray and break down easier than the others. But I found in the few journals that I have completed and done signatures with that this stuff works the best. So that would be my recommendation. You can use whatever you have, whatever you want. You can use like baker's thread. The one thing you want to pay attention to though is how thick it is, because you have to pull it through some holes. Now this here is going to be a 3-hole pamphlet stitch, and I'm going to go in through the middle and then come back up and go down and bring it back up through the middle. What I did is I put a little binder clip on the end so that I don't pull the thread all the way through. Now I'm not making a little template. A lot of people make, you know, little templates so they know where to poke the holes. But this one here, I'm not doing that with it all. I'm just kind of guesstimating the middle, and I'm going to poke it all the way through. Hopefully it will go through. Usually I grab a thimble. I don't think I have one close though. But see, you just go through the middle. It's not quite the middle. I'm a little high, but that's okay. And pull it through. Sometimes you might have to use like a plier or something to grip it. You can use binder clips. Here, let me show you. So if I can use another binder clip to kind of hold everything in place for me while I do, just making sure everything is tucked in to the crease. And I'm going to poke another hole on the top. Now I don't have any smaller pages in here that I'm looking to like accommodate through. Or that I want to actually stitch in, because sometimes if you have smaller papers, you want to have the other holes go through it so that the whole page is secured, not just the middle. So let's just pull this a little more. Now I'm going to go all the way to the bottom. And poke that through. So remember how I said it's kind of the most nerve-wracking part for me? This is easy. The book is going to be a little harder because there's a little bit of measuring and you just kind of want to keep things centered. No, where's it? Get some of my tools. So the length of the string, I didn't mention that. When I measured the string, because I pre-threaded this piece, you'll see when I do it on the other end, or the actual book, what I did is I went 3 times the length. So I went 1, 2, 3, and a little more. So I went in through the middle, I came up through one end, and I went all the way down to the other end. Now we're going to go back in through the middle. And really it's the same concept for the book itself. I was going to do, like I said, the hidden spine, but I kind of changed my mind. I want the stitches to be seen on this one. So then I come back up through the middle and pull it taut. I can remove my needle now. And we just want to make sure we pull all the slack up so that it's not real loose out here. And what I like to do is the string is in between these two when we went from the top hole to the bottom hole. So with the string being in the middle, now we're just going to tie it in a couple of knots. And that hopefully will keep it secure for the duration of its use. Now you can snip these short. I usually leave them a little longer. I like strings, so I just let it hang. And now we have pages and the bag. Ta-da! So the floating pocket is done. Stitched. See? I didn't get it quite exactly on the spine. That's okay. I don't like when things are perfect anyway. The beauty is and character is in the flaws, in my opinion. So now we kind of want to do the same thing. Now this isn't really dry yet. So I'm wondering if I should end this and then come back. Or just do it. Okay, I'm going to end this and let this dry more. And then we'll come back in, we'll do the 2 of these. So I'll just actually edit them, the 2 videos together. And I'll see you in a few. Okay, we are back. And we're going to do a little bit of measuring. This is drier now. So we're going to do a little bit of measuring. Now you don't have to do this. But I want to show you so that you have at least a little bit of means of figuring it out when it's not just kind of straightforward. All I'm doing is making this a little shorter, so it's about the same size as my book. Alright, so I made a center fold, and all I want to do is from the middle, and I'm just eyeballing the middle on my little muslin thing, I want to come in, I believe, at this little graph line here. So this will give me the ability to fold a straight line, and then do the same on the other side. So I'm going to go to this line here. Now I know you guys can't see that. I'm going to show it to you in just a minute. Basically, I'm just marking the middle. So that I can make my lines fairly uniform. Alright, so let me go ahead and draw lines where I just folded so you can see. So my very first fold was basically right here. Be nice if my pen worked, huh? Sorry about that. Alright, try again. My first fold. My second fold. And my third fold. Okay. So, and now I'm just fitting this kind of in the middle of where my muslin is, in the middle of where the book pages are, or will go, I'm sorry. So the middle seeing as this pamphlet stitch, it's going to actually show on the outside. With the other one, I didn't care too much about where the holes were, but this one I kind of do. And then I'm just kind of measuring approximate, seam from top to bottom. And one of the things you want to keep in mind is, at least from what I've seen other ladies do, including Kelly, is the binding itself, or the signature itself, keep a little closer basically to the bottom. This one actually kind of fits regardless, but so that way if it's sitting up on the shelf, if it's suspended in the middle, then you're putting stress on the threads, you know, holding up the signatures, especially on a signature that's heavily decorated. So you have lots of pockets and stuff, you know, sewn and stapled and whatnot. If you have it lower to the bottom, you know, so that it's resting on the bottom with the book, then you're not putting that stress on the threads that are going in the binding itself. So I folded my paper, and this is kind of where my stitches are falling. But when I look at it next to the book, I think I want to go a little longer. So let's go here, and so that's one, two, and here. Oh, I figured that out by hand pretty easily. So here, 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 and here, and here are where I'm going to make my holes to stitch in the two signatures. Okay? So I'm going to use, actually, let's turn it over. I have the guts from the same book that I'm using. I'm just gonna, I use it usually for like glue pages. I'm just gonna use it and poke my holes. So hopefully this is making sense. You know, I haven't done it a ton of times, but I'm just poking my holes. And I'm going all the way through the spine of the book. And I'm poking all the way into the book pages below. And that way I kind of know where I'm going with the stitch on the inside. Okay, so I have holes, holes, holes. Pretty much where I wanted. Remember I said I wanted it right at that seam? And you can kind of see them on the inside too. So now for these pages, well, first let's thread. I'm not sure if I need that anymore, but let's go ahead and my needle. 1, 2, 3, and a little extra. And we always have more than we need. And then I'll cut the other one because I'm doing 2. 1, 2, 3, and a little extra. Making sense so far? And the other thing nice about this waxed thread is you can flatten it and it's pretty easy to thread. As long as you have a needle that's got a big enough eye. So where's my binder clip? So hopefully this is making sense. Just know that the struggle is real for all of us. It's always an awkward moment. But with patience, it's easy enough. So what I'm going to do now is kind of use this as a template. I'm going to put this in the center. Make sure all my pages are where I want them. I only have a couple of little pages that are kind of mid in the middle, but I'm not concerned about going through them because they're in the middle of the book. If it was like the very center of it, I would want to make sure that I'm going through the shorter page, like if I had an envelope in the middle. But see, this is a little shorter. I still kind of want it that way. I don't want all of them flush to the bottom. I want some of them a little shorter and centered. And there's the other one that's in the middle. Let's raise this one up just a bit. Okay. Now, one thing to mention, I'm sure I probably mentioned it when we were doing the signatures. What I did is I trimmed them so that they're kind of flush, because the inside pages, as you can see, they're actually a little bit shorter than the outside pages because of the room that it takes all the papers to stack where it's folded. So I have all mine all nice and even. I'm going to put my template in the middle. Let me find the middle page. So that way I know where my middle hole goes. Make sure you have the top with the top. Okay, this is where a lot of us go astray and we put our signatures in upside down. So here. Hopefully I'm doing it right. I'm going to use, I guess, one of these binder clips. I was just looking to see how it was lined up, because some of my shorter pages, I'm just making sure they're inside the holes, where the holes are. What I didn't do is I didn't mark what side was the top here. Did I? Make sure that this lines up. Yeah, I think I have it right, because they're lining up, being fairly flush on the bottom. So what I'm basically saying is mark your top. So that way everything kind of lines up, at least the best that it can. I'm going to use a clip to hold this stuff together. Now you can clip it all the way around. It's up to you how detailed you get. I'm just making sure all my pages are tucked. Where's my pen? This has a flat head on it, so I can kind of push. Which is why an awl is nice, because it has a handle. So what I'm doing is I'm making holes for where I'm going to actually do the threading through. And then we're going to follow and do the same pamphlet stitch with the needle. So I got the binder clip on the end. I'm going through the middle and then through the middle hole in the back here. So long as everything, you know, kind of lines up, the world will be good. So I'm just pulling it through, and now we're going to go in the second hole here. I have arthritis in my hand, so excuse me if I kind of struggle just a little bit. And, well, I didn't really want this to be part of the project, so let's go ahead and remove it. So after you get your holes poked, move your template. Alright, so let's just follow in the holes. That we made here. Ooh. So yeah, see with the fabric on the edge of this one, I can't really see where the hole is. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go back through it so I know about where to go. So it's right here. And then if you need to, you can kind of go through it a few pages at a time just to make sure you're catching it all. Hopefully you're seeing this. Maybe I should have zoomed in a little bit. Okay. Oops. Do you guys take your motion sickness medicine today? Alright, so we got the first stitch in. Now we're going to go all the way to the bottom and go through that hole we already made to the hole we already made. So as you can see, the coming back in is the harder hole to follow. The going out was pretty quick and easy, huh? So let's pull that nice and tight. And now we're going to go back up through the middle. Now if you have a lot going on, you know, lots of pages, lots of ephemera and stuff like that, you can do 5 holes in your stitch instead. The pamphlet stitch, it's just a little alright, remember I want my threads to come up on either side of the middle, so I'm pulling this back up through. And take my needle off. Okay, so now we sew it, or we already sewed it, now we tie it. And I just tie it into a couple of knots. Because it's waxed, it'll stay, it's not going anywhere. So really I just tie a couple square knots. Alright. And not too much extra. And what you can do too is leave them until you're done with the sewing part, and then you can like tie charms on the ends if you want. I left them long enough that I can do that should I choose. And now we do it all again. So just making sure I got the top on the top. My page is fairly lined up. You just want to check the short ones. Let's see, this one I want up a little bit more. There. So all I'm doing is making sure everything is kind of placed where I want it. Find my middle. Place my template. Remember, top on the top. I'm going to make sure everything's kind of tucked in the crease. Put the binder clip on the bottom. Hold everything in place. Poke some holes. Actually, let's do it on the book. I don't want to hurt the cover, just in case I'm a little too aggressive here. Make sure you poke it straight through. And one more time on the top. leave that there for the moment. Let's go ahead and thread our second. Okay, folks. Oh, here it is. As I say, where did I put the needle? So as you can see, it's not really hard. It's just a matter of kind of lining stuff up and basically jumping right in. Don't be afraid. If you poke the hole in the wrong spot, we can always poke another one, right? No one really sees that part anyway, you know, because it's inside the binding of the book. Okay. So let's go ahead. We go in through the middle. Nice and easy. Through the middle. And I kind of did it again. I forgot to take my template out. So we're going to just move stuff. And we're going to go in top hole that I made, and the top hole. It's not coming all the way through quite as easy. Sorry, guys. Alright, so I came back through and I missed the hole just slightly, but that's okay. I'm not too worried about it. Oop. Now we come down to the bottom. We go through that hole and through this hole. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. It is scary, but move this little guy. It's all part of what we do. Now, if you were to do the hidden spine, where you're doing this with a piece of cardboard instead of directly through the book, sometimes it seems like it's a little easier because, you know, the outer book is not as well, the smaller piece of cardstock or whatever you were going to is a little more flexible, easy to go through. Okay. So again, I missed the very, very middle hole that I had already made. Now I went right through the middle of the thread. You do not want to stay there. Bring it back out so that you can bring it to one side or the other. Because once we tie this, remember we want that thread in between the two. See? So let's go ahead and tie it. Whew. That was intense, wasn't it? I think more so because I was worried about being on camera doing it. People are watching me. When you're struggling by yourself, it's just a, you know, a silent struggle. All right. So we have our journal bound. See? And so we have a space in between the two. I probably could have put them a little closer together, but that gives space for the floating pocket, because remember I did the floating pocket. That can easily go in the middle, or I could have brought them a little more forward to one place or the other, so it fits easily in the middle. And I'm probably just going to do a tie closure for this one. Otherwise, if I had, you know, was covering this on the inside as well, you can bring a piece of ribbon or sari silk or something up through the middle and sandwich it in, so that way you can tie it shut. You can use grommets and just kind of poke a hole and put the grommet through and put the silk or a ribbon through the grommet. It's just a matter of preference. I'm just going to tie it on the outside. I'm not sure, because this isn't going to be a big time alligator mouth, which is what we call it when it gets full and doesn't close. It's not going to be one of those journals, at least when I give it to her. I'm not worried about it kind of staying secure. It's just going to be a regular book. You know what I mean? What am I trying to say? It's not going to be like this all the time. You're not going to have to worry about keeping it kind of more manageable. And even if it does get like that, that's part of the beauty of it. The bigger, the chunky, the more beautiful it is, because you've got more stuff in it. So now I'll probably just go over this little edge with some Fabri-Tac and make sure I get all the little parts put down that might have lifted through that rough neck part. This side stayed pretty good. This one here is lifted just a little bit, so we're going to go over that with some glue. Traditionally, I would have brought that paper out to see where that slight seam is underneath this. The hidden spine would be, you know, something that comes out a little further and gets glued down. And then whatever you're covering this paper with, you know, another decorative piece of paper would hide all that. That's why they call it a hidden spine. So maybe I'll do that in the next journal, the hidden spine, because it's an extra step. You have to glue it before you actually start, you know, doing the inside back cover. You want to glue all this underneath, and then what I usually do is I just prop it so it dries while it's up like this, and then I let it dry completely before I start handling the book. So I'll let it sit for, you know, a day or two. Now, as you can see, my edges all kind of just meet, or my inside signatures are just a little bit longer. I don't mind that. Traditionally, I usually have like laces and stuff sticking out, but I didn't want this one to be girly. So I just have the stitching on the signature covers sticking out. But I like it. I hope she likes it. She's never had a junk journal before, and I'm not even sure she has a full understanding of what they are. But it's going to be written in a lot. Written and drawn and probably stuff glued in it. So, yay, I'm all done. Thanks for hanging out. Thumbs up is good. Subscribe if you haven't already. I really, truly appreciate it. Once I get my numbers up, I can do this live. It'll be a little while before that happens, but I'm looking forward to it. Have a wonderful day and be safe. And that's all. Until next time. Take care, my friends.